and eat the carrion. This is why they use the symbol of the jackal in your star. They'll take your dog star, which is Venus, that goes in your flag, and then turn it upside down, which means the South Pole, the polar. See, because when you're dealing with electricity, you're dealing with anode and cathode. Anode is Allah. Cathode is the Catholic Church. They're polar opposites in electricity. This is why when you see them doing social engineering, they'll deal with capacitors, resistors, and they run the economy the same way. That's why they needed fiat to control the estate, because they can't do it with money.
Wow.
Because they're dealing with an artificial platform, an imposter platform. Therefore, they need dogma instead of religion, color of law instead of jurisprudence, fiat instead of money. Trinity operations, and they steal your estate. Just get you to agree without competently qualifying yourself to engage in it. That's how it operates. If you understand that, you understand the reversion of estate, acknowledgement of your estate. All clear?
That was so powerful because I was talking to a mother that is more in Brooklyn, and
Get in your mic.
I'm sorry. She was telling me about the same things you're talking about now, about the birth certificate, how our children are sold into their
They're not
system.
sold, they're born into it.
Well, born
that's the
into their
problem.
system, yeah,
I'm just clearing, so there's no assumption. Let's keep this right path. Let's make this very clear. They don't do it after it's born. They're born into it. You, the mother, must liberate yourself and liberate them publicly. Failure to do so, the hypothecation is on. It's on, they're born in sin. That's the sin. But sin actually means the womb, because the moon governs the womb. And so if you're not in harmony with sin, is not really what people think it is, wrongdoing. Sin symbolizes absence of knowledge of the operations of the womb, which governs the womb, which is government. So if you don't govern yourself, they govern you, which is what they've been doing. So what you're saying to the world, and what we're doing this for, is to bring you, me, us to the capacity of being competent, to change your language so that they can no longer claim you to be incompetent. You don't need to argue with them. You need to put them in their place without frustration, although they can be frustrating because they're belligerent. But understand that when you start being public and competent, it kills the bonds. This is why, like in The Wizard of Oz, when you see the Wicked Witch and you see the house, they're symbolic. These are all symbols. The house come from the heavens. In my Father's house, there are many mansions, and the house falls on her. And the good witch, which means wise woman, says, "Hey, Doc, I noticed you was checking out them Gucci shoes. You like them Gucci shoes?" And she's going, "No, I'm just so scared. I just want to go home and stuff and get a peanut butter sandwich." And she says, and then the good witch says, "Ching!" And then the transfer of the ruby red slippers in the original script is silver. All right. Moon, you understand? All right. And God said, "Oh, stop." You start doing moonwalk. All right. But if you notice, the symbolism is that her stockings curled up. This is what happens. So anybody that got those bonds in their houses, they're going to discover what it was from the beginning, a worthless piece of paper that nobody wants. That's what's happening right now. So, why are we presenting this argument to you? is so that you can try to preserve what you already have, because they're going to take every damn thing else. If you got an account, it's not your account, it's theirs. So don't worry, they're going to take that. If you have any pensions or what you think 401k and stuff, it's a 409k as of now. No, I'm telling you, these are realities that people smell it, but it ain't punched them in the face yet, and so they're holding on, hoping, wishing, and the clouds say rain coming. I don't know if I should go back in the house and get an umbrella, because I don't look cute without an umbrella. So I walk 2 blocks from the house when it don't rain. You know, like that. I don't feel like counting. And it's sort of like that. People in their heart know foreboding. See, because nature, yourself will tell you things, but we don't listen to ourselves anymore. We learn not to listen to ourselves. Your cells have been telling you for years this stuff is effed up. And we talk about fudge. And they know that they're not secure, so they pray more when they're really being preyed upon. And that's P-R-E-Y. It ain't P-R-A-Y. And they're hoping some secret Lord will quickly save them before this thing crashes. When it's already crashing, and there's a high level of denial with all of this stuff. And I understand, because people are fearful. Because everything that they've been secure in is falling apart. Not going to fall apart. It's falling apart. Currently. They just hope they ain't the next chicken on the rotisserie. And they talk about the other chickens that, hey, he's fried, he's roasted, but the rotisserie's kind of big, so they part him before they get around. But the deal with this is many chickens that they can roast, they are actually doing it and they're speeding up the rotisserie. This is what's really happening right now. Right now. All right.
I understand the church really preaches against astrology. They talk about
when the church is astrology.
But I've seen in your deed, it says something about Saturn. Can you explain that?
Sure. Saturn is Saturday, isn't it?
Saturday?
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday. All right, let's do this. Let's do this, y'all. Now, you'll see this in multiple formats. Whether you'll see it in menorah, etc. In the book of Revelation, and they heard one speak with a voice of many waters, right? And what is the next line in that quote? I saw one standing amongst 7 golden candlesticks. Right? He spoke with a voice of many waters. Can you name them candlesticks? All right. The middle one would be the sun. And you'll see that written in 4 chapters. See those 4 gates? Book of Malachi has 4 chapters. And it says, the Son of Righteousness arises with healing in his wings. Go read it for yourself, and you'll see it says S-U-N, not S-O-N. Because it is the sun. Now, as the planets that rotate, the major planets that rotate around the sun, have common names for the everyday person. And it's called what? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Huh? All right, so let's go to, here, I'll give you an example here. Now, you know when you go into the Bible and you see the preacher and all say Elohim is God. This is Elohim. Now, to the masses, because the dark priesthood keep the masses dumb, Elohim is plural. Eloah is singular. They know that the people can't read, so they don't worry about it, do they? Do they? This is why they don't want people educated. Are we clear? So these are them 7 golden candlesticks. Let's go through this, you all. So this is what you saw on that paper. Holy names of the 7 Eloah. So the 7 Elohs are who? For what? The 7 days. They are cyclical. We measure time in cycles. This is why you also have chronos, sequence of events. So time on a calendar is not necessarily time in the heavens. So you must understand that. Because wise men go to the stars. Because that's how things are really calculated. So do all high priests. And they're trained accordingly. Are we clear? Okay.
Sandwiches.
All right, so the 7 Eloah conjoined, or the 7 golden candlesticks in the book of Revelation, or when the Muslims make the Hajj 7 times counterclockwise, they mean the exact same thing. They think they got something different. They're arguing with each other, sticking each other with toothpicks. My God is better than your sandwich. He makes better peanut butter sandwiches than he saved that I ate last week, and he saved me. I was blessed. They arguing with each other, and they got the same thing. And you couldn't even, if you asked them the science, they didn't even know what the swell you're talking about. But they're going to tell you they know this stuff. But the preacher knows it. The imams know it. The rabbis know it. Sunday is the first day of the week. It is ruled by the sun. The holy name of Sunday, Domingo, is Michael. Monday is the second day of the week. It is ruled by the moon. The holy name of Monday, Lunes, is Gabriel. Tuesday is the third day of the week. It is ruled by Mars. The holy name of Tuesday, Martes, is Samael. Wednesday is the fourth day of the week. It is ruled by Mercury. The holy name of Wednesday, Mercuris, is Raphael. Thursday is the fifth day of the week. It is ruled by Jupiter. The holy name of Thursday, Jueves, is Sakael. Friday is the sixth day of the week. It is ruled by Venus. The holy name of Friday is Viernes, or Anael. Saturday is the seventh day of the week, is ruled by Saturn. The holy name of Saturday, Sabado, is Casael. So what you saw on that paper is Saturday, the seventh day of the week, is ruled by Saturn. The holy name of Saturday, Sabado, is Casael. So if God rested on the seventh day, what is the Sabbath? Sabado, Sabbath. Sabbath is actually Saturday. Why Sunday? For the priesthood of Rome. They offered it right in the people's face. People didn't dispute it, did they? Did they? They lying to you right to your face. But if you don't know this, you wouldn't contest them, would you? Failure to contest or correct is acquiescence. Are we clear? And let me read this out there and answer your question. Now, a day is that period of sunlight between dawn and nightfall, and is that time or interval existing from sunrise to sunset. The word holy is derived from the ancient Sanskrit word halig, which means whole and sun. A week is that period of measurement of 7 successive days. The word day is derived from the word degree and relates to the 24-hour period during which the earth completes one full rotation upon its axis. This is called a solar day. The 7 days philosophically have holy names and are ruled or governed by 7 major stars or 7 planets in our solar system. These attributes or holy names have been passed down to us from our ancient foremothers and forefathers. In harmony with the divine order of nature, each singular day is called an Elohim. The 7 days or 7 stars together as one are called Elohim, expressive of the mother-father principle, and applies to the 7 singular Elohim in their plural form and in their cyclical oneness. The ancient cosmosciences involving the 7 days have been traditionally taught to neophytes and scholars alike, and are representative in the circumambulate heaven symbolism, being a part of the ancient and modern mystical schools of highest learning. The same philosophies are infused within many religious rituals and ceremonies, and poignantly characterized by way of the symbolic displays of 7 golden candlesticks. The same symbolism is traditionally expressed in the circumambulation rituals, which are demonstrable of the very religious Asiatic African archaic cultures. Eloah is derived from the ancient Moabite Hebrew word El, which has been presented to the natural peoples of the earth as God. The Hebrew Ibri names El and Eloah means God, being synonymous. El and Eloah are singularly relative by fact and by definition. That's a fact that's known by all races. So they lied to you to your face because they figured you didn't know this. That's why you're in the house of reawakening minds, to being exposed to the same things that they got that give them their degrees. Now you got the degrees. Now do you need to be deceived anymore? Or do you need to be divided with somebody because they Muslims or Christian and they both got the same stuff and don't know the science behind it? This is the science. This is the fact. Documented. Now, again, so if you ask the average person to name the candlesticks in sequence, then that means they need to know the geographical locations from the earth to the heavens of their constellations and where they're placed. And how the earth transits around the sun. And where the sun hits the earth and the energies of the different planets hit the earth generate energies affecting the womb of woman in 9 cycles, and how she builds Solomon's temple, which is this. Out of salts and phosphates pulled from the atmosphere in her food. This is why the Ankh is used as a symbol of government on earth. The Ankh, or sistrum, people wear it and don't even know it represents the uterus, the 2 fallopian tubes, and the birth canal. The Holy Cross. Matriarchy. Is that not true? Talk about workings of nature. Isn't it true that when doctors, real doctors, start examining people to see what their sicknesses are, they look at their bone structure or they look at the chart and see when their mother brought them, and then start looking at the 3 months that they weren't in the womb, and start looking at the phosphates and the salts that are absent, and start giving them foods to complete Solomon's temple. Usually they start healing if they want them to, but they don't deal in the West on healing. They deal with maintaining or managing. And then you see them doctors go in the other room and stuff, and they be looking at them circular charts even when they do operations, so they can see the position of the moon. That's why they do operations in clusters. But they don't believe in astrology, do they? Yeah, right. They tell you that. Because that's where the power is. Because that's religion, cosmology, understanding the workings of nature. That's the knowledge. Or the gnosis. They're all Gnostics, all of them. Whether the reverends, imams, priests, doctors, masons, Eastern Star, Knights Templar. You go into any of them lodges or temples, you walk in the doorway, you're going to see the zodiac. Because that's the law. The yellow brick road, Dorothy. Now, you will see that symbol, the Germanic name for the symbol, not building, the Germanic name for the symbol is Church, the great circle. North, east, west, south. That's where you get news from. They chart the stars. They're looking at ephemeриdes. And you can turn it forward and backward. That's how they prophesy. It's mathematics. In my Father's house, there are many mansions. This is the mansion. Look in the book of Revelation, chapter 21, chapter 22, and you'll see 3 in the north, 3 in the east, 3 in the west, and 3 in the south. North gate, east gate, west gate, south gate. I rule the earth. That's what they're telling you. You see the priest going up there and everything, and he's saying, oh, he did that, so just sweetness and goodness of godliness. He's going, he just told you I rule the earth. Told you he's God. Book of Thessalonians. Then Yahshua tell you, he said, remember when I was yet with you, I told you these things, that they would put themselves on the throne of God, claim to be God. That's why they took on the title white man. That's what it means. Sovereign, ruler of the earth. So what happens when the heirs call him white man? Thinking they can read. They can't damn read. They won't tell you about Jesus, God, and Allah, and Moses, and Muhammad, and stuff. And they're ruling you with your own stuff. Then you want to blame the devil. The devil took my sandwiches because we was doing all holy worship stuff and stuff. Worship your God and stuff, they don't like us. And they just came and just messed up everything. Oh, why didn't your God rescue you? I had to wait to talk to Reverend Jones. Well, if he made you, why can't you? What was your personal relationship? Why do you guys cell numbers, huh? Well, call them, because they taking all your sandwiches. We don't get it. That we're being played and we won't accept that we're being played. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Now, in the book of Malachi, which closes out the Old Testament, you got the 4 gates again, only 4 chapters. And tell you when the Son of Righteousness arises with healing in his wings. Go look at it yourself. So the dark priesthood always kind of let themselves off the hook by telling you the truth, just not telling you how to look at it. Do you comprehend? And then they come and tell you, well, you don't believe in astrology. I suggest that you go to any of your older, see, to really build the astrological chambers, observatories, it's very expensive. So they don't make them buildings the way they used to, with stone, with all your architectural designs, with the parapets, the cinquefoil windows, the pews, which are really both sides of the fallopian tube, the rostrum, which is really the uterus, and the aisle, which is actually the birth canal, and the red doors, which is the blood, and the 2 pillars, Yakin and Boaz, which is the 2 legs of woman, in your face. And if you count the windows in their placements, they're dealing with power numbers, 3, 5s, 7s, 9s, and 12s. Even placements of the chairs. And they tell you it's not astrology. That's because you When I say you, that's not you personally. Stupid enough to believe them. When all the evidence is right in front of your face. Hold on. So let's look at cosmogony. This is the cardinal points, or noble points. They're called your cardinal points. And when you break down your 3 gates, they're called the degrees. In each one of these, they're called deaconates. That's where they get deacon from the church. These cardinal points is where they get cardinal from the church, in the church. Your first house is the helper of the bishop. That's why it's called bishop. That's the first helper. You go look it up. People, meaning because they know that people don't read and they believe, they don't study. They don't deal with study. They deal with beliefs. And of course, when they get frustrated, they change every couple years. When they ain't got enough peanut butter sandwiches. You know, always ask people, say, oh, you found God? Oh, you didn't have him before. Yeah, but I was a believer before, but today I found him this time. Oh, did you give the body and the breath back to the old God? You get the whole point. And then they'll start talking about, there's only one God. Oh, there is? Not that, I'm not saying that there isn't or isn't. I'm just saying, if you look at what people keep on saying and boasting about, right? Well, don't that book, says, God said, let us, isn't us like plural? And then in the same God that you said that's jealous said, there shall be no other gods before me. So that means the God that you say that you worshiping just told you there's other gods that he's competing with. And then you're saying there's only one God. Well, which one of those gods is you talking about? That is the one with the sandwiches. Name them, place them, her, it, where. Oh, since you got a personal relationship, give me your cell phone. I'm going to call them and get straighten this stuff right up. Well, you can't talk to him because I got a personal relationship. Well, why are you telling me about him? This is all that personal. Well, he made everybody. Well, then I should have his number too. You're selling him. He always, of course, he's always broke. Come on, stop. The deal of it is, if people would just use their basic child sense, they would recognize they're being played. But they're in denial. People are in denial. And so this is why they pump belief systems for dummies, children, imbeciles, and people who are not willing to handle reality. True religion is kept amongst the priesthood. This is why the symbolism is, and the rituals are given without the science. This is why if you go to the science, the believers don't recognize what you're talking about. So like if you went into this in a conversation, they'll start talking about you got a devil. You need to come and make a lot of sandwiches and stuff. You don't know the Lord is. And you're talking about what they themselves is claiming. They just don't know the science behind it. They want to talk about salvation and everything. And people are running to the bank on their expense every day. And of course the devil did that, right? Yeah. These people are full of it. And nobody feels sorry for them. So they're racist because they don't feel sorry for them. No, they're not racist. They're taking advantage of people who dishonor their mothers and fathers, are held outside the constitutional form of government on earth planet, have no protections whatsoever, are denationalized, declared stateless persons, and are under wardship tenures, and all of their estates have been hypothecated. That's really what we're dealing with, that ignorant people keep calling racism and prejudice. It's sanctum policy, documented. It's not hidden, but since they don't read, it's not required. Why you deal with people that don't deal with knowledge and science? So you give them beliefs that change every 2 sandwiches. Because what, they don't work anyway. Just keeps them busy while they get raped. And all their injury they blame on the devil. Finally, nickel, I was broke. I needed a sandwich. And then I tripped. I bumped my head on the curb. And I almost was knocked out. And then I opened my eyes. I saw $1. God gave me $1. So I went to McDonald's and got me 2 for 1 sandwich and stuff. That was a blessing. No, you dumbass. You fell down, bumped your head, you just found $1 and stuff like that. Because if you was blessed, you would have bumped your head and you'd have $5 waiting there and just ask that God to give you a sandwich. Went there and gave him a coupon or something. We're full of it. And then as soon as bad luck happened, you want to blame the devil. He took your ass kicked. No, serious. He said, one of these days, the Lord and stuff. Give it up to Mike.
It's going back to what you said earlier when you were talking about, how they changed the day of the Sabbath, Shabbat, and so forth. If you read their catechism, which most of us don't, but in their catechism, they say that they changed the Sabbath. They also said they made themselves the vicar of or substitute of Christ.
And
they say it.
What is a substitute but a counterfeit?
Counterfeit. But they say it in their catechism.
Yes, they do.
You just go get a little Catholic catechism book, and they tell everything in there, but we don't read it, so we wouldn't know.
Exactly. Now, and then the priesthood, they was fighting for the spoils. They were fighting each other over the spoils. Calvinism, Lutheranism, all of these protesting daughters are what now called Protestant church. They're simply the priesthood fighting amongst themselves for the spoils. And they took the book with them. Which ain't nothing wrong, but they ain't told these people about the anthropomorphic presentment of the books. Books ain't wrong. Let's not get this twisted. The books are not wrong. They're not explained in their Kabbalistic and anthropomorphic format. It is designed for children to keep the knowledge from who the priesthood called the profane. And the profane are the very sheeple that they've been raping. So the sheeple are all in the corner of the pen talking, oh, we're so cold. One day, Son of God is going to come and save us and stuff. And everybody standing around got cashmere sweaters. It's because the sheeple ain't got no damn wool. They shearing them. Who got the sweater? Pastor. He's keeping control of the pastor. They don't even get it. They don't even hide it. They're working for Constantine. These people, now they called because the devil did it. No, they're called because the sheeple ain't got no damn wool. Everybody else got sweaters. But them, shivering, waiting for the sun come out. S-U-N. S-O-N. And so Jesus, Zeus, i.e. the Son of God, has to come to warn their keisters up because they're going to freeze. And one of these days, he's coming back. I guess so. Then wait for the daytime. Because that's what it is. And it really is that. And people need to understand they're talking about the transit of the sun through the heavens. And it's calculated. And it brings life to everyone and everything on earth. And it cycles. And then it goes into a sleeping form, which is called the winter solstice. And for 3 days, it's in the tomb. And this is where you see on the calendar when it says winter solstice. The sun stands still for 3 days. And then on the 25th of December, it starts its ascension again. That's Jesus ascending into the heavens. You're talking about the positions of the sun in relationship to the earth. You're talking about ephemerides. All right? And so you're talking about the 7 ruling planets and their effect on life on earth. And that is how things are calculated. That is religion. And this is why all churches, mosques, and synagogues, all your old buildings are designed and laid out geometrically, astrologically. And if you don't believe it, count the windows, count the structure, count the parapets, count the doorways, look at the art forms, look at the numerical structures. It's clear to anyone. It's not hidden. It's right there in the architecture. It's never been hidden. But they, it's sort of like the preachers give the masses dogma, and they themselves keep religion for themselves. That's the source of their power. Anthropomorphic is the methodology by which the ancient ones set up cosmological and ephemeral teachings for children. So rather than tell the children the transits of the sun and the calculations of the sun in relationship to the earth, across the earth that gives light, and the 4 seasons, why you got your 4 gates, etc., how you plan for food, to feed the masses, they say the corn, the grain in the fish, the movement of the fish according to the moon, etc. It's agriculture. So for children, you'll talk about certain star strengths, star energies. So Big Dipper. So the Big Dipper for the little children is Santa Claus, is sleigh. When you become an adult, you put away your childish things and you go to the stars, because you're dealing with star charts. But that's for adults. You see? Now, so when it is demonstrated to children, the Big Dipper, Santa Claus, that would be called anthropomorphic. Write that down. So if the people don't know that the books are anthropomorphic, if you're not told that, you take the child story even when you're grown. All clear? So adults, anthro, A-N, here, I'll write it down. Here you go. And so the priesthood keeps the adults in the anthropomorphic degrees. In this way, they have power over them. Are we clear? So, how is it that the priesthood would always be the healers? Because they would look at when your mother brought you here, and they immediately know what salts and phosphates your body is missing, and know the tendencies of sicknesses that will affect that particular temple, which is your body, based on what your mother put in you. So what they do, here, take this herb and drink this. And you say, oh, Dad, I feel good now. Yay. You know, he give you some salts and phosphates that's missing from your body form. And they know that most of the things that make you sick, your tendency is because the temple of Solomon is incomplete. So true religion teaches you that so that you can go get the foods and the salts within a 300-mile area where you are. This is where Deuteronomy tells you that the trees, every herb-bearing tree is your meat. They've been trained by the priesthood that the meat is the morgue. And so they've been eating the animals as meat when meat is really the leaves and the fruits on the root. They don't even know what food is. Why do we think we're sick? That's why when people get sick, the priesthood immediately, one of the first things they take them off is pork. And particularly fried pork. Because they know most of the sickness is them trichina worms. Then they start flushing them with water, but they only manage it. They don't really try to cure it. And that's the real truth. And so, once the people understand that the Bible is derived from Septuaginta, and they also understand why the priesthood took out the 7 books of Moses, which deals with the chemistry of earth and the herbs. And also the books of Mary, the book of the infant, etc. Because then you're going into the real culture. Then you find out what? The one that they call Jesus' real name is Yahushua, and he was actually a Muslim. And Yahudi, what they would call a Jew. He wasn't a Christian. Though he had Christ degrees. That's an ascension period or the nature of activating the pineal gland. And this is where he says, look, y'all got this thing twisted. What I've done, all men can do. I'm just here to demonstrate to you. And some of you will do greater works than I have done, which means you're going to activate more degrees than I've activated. But y'all don't understand this. They don't believe that book. They just repeat stuff without knowledge. Promoted by the priesthood who've done that to them. And the injury that comes to them, they blame the devil. Meanwhile, the priesthood is always fleecing them for finance to kick the devil's ass. But the guy that he talked about can't never beat the devil. You know, it's like this, a child will figure out we're being played. Adults can't get it. Because they're blinded by their beliefs. They won't deal with logic. Because they don't recognize the anthropomorphic presentment, and they're never told. Go ahead, give the brother Mike. Stu, go ahead.
You know, Just building on what you were saying about Saturday being the Sabbath. I mean, when you look at it on any Gregorian calendar, it shows Sunday is the first day of the week and the last day is Saturday.
Sure, but they can lie to people's face because they know people's full of it.
Islam.
See, believers know that they're hypocrites. It's just that they get amongst a bunch of other hypocrites so we can all feel together. It's like you going to a crack house trying to discuss about crack is bad for you. They might throw your ass out the window. Let's discuss about what's good. Let's discuss about what's good for you, bad. You tell them on the corner, they'll say, yeah, I know. But you go to the crack house and I tell them, they jump you. You're going to get jumped. And it's the same way people are in the name of religion. You know, like people get in them houses, blaming on God's house and everything. They be going, they be falling all over the place, leaning all over the chairs and stuff. Don't let the dress come up, man. It'll never drop their pocketbook. But let's look at this honestly. Let's look at this honestly. If they really, if that was really the thing, you'd be seeing that all over the street. They leave their buildings doing the moonwalk and everything, doing push cars down the street. You know why they don't do it? Because they know daggone well somebody gonna come past with a wagon, drag them in, talk about they didn't take their Ritalin this morning and stuff. Because they don't believe that stuff themselves. Because if that's the reality, wherever you are, is what it is. Right or wrong? You see them doing it in the mall?
No.
Huh?
No.
On I-95 and stuff? No. When they go make transactions in business, they don't start, wait a minute, hold on, let me get my son. Can you sign over here? Oh, peanut butter sandwiches. What you say? He's speaking in tongues. I don't know what he said yet, but next, while he's going through his thing, people don't do that in real life. Why? Because it's a show, and there's nothing wrong with a show. A good show is a good show. I have fun. You know, I remember, this is true. In Camden, anybody y'all come across Benjamin Franklin Bridge and coming into Camden on Admiral Wilson Boulevard, and right on the right you see that tan church there as soon as you get past the first ramp. About 10 years ago, something like that, I went to church with my cousin Kenny. We went to church, because my cousin, the Shields, is actually a minister. He wasn't doing the baptism, but with some people that were doing baptism. And you know how they have the pool at the church, and they have the steps when you walk into church? I mean, on the stage, they have the pool in the stage. So everybody got their white gowns on and stuff, and they, next, and they dip them and all that stuff, going through the thing. I mean, it was beautifully tight. And the choir can sing, because we can sing now. We get down when it's singing. Anyway, so this sister, I'm estimating her to be between 18 and 20, somewhere in that area. So Red was dumping her and stuff like that, and she got her braids and stuff, and he dumped her. Peanut butter sandwiches. Right? She comes up, she's going like this, and he's going, peanut butter sandwiches, the Lord of God, and stuff like that, and casting devils and all this kind of stuff. And she's trying to catch her breath, she's trying to get it together. He's going up, he dumped her down the third time, she didn't get her breath the last time. Whoa, that girl came up, motherfucker, you trying to kill me? She was hoping. The church went, silent, and you could hear those covered sneezes in the back, like, it was fun. Let me tell you, I told Kenny, so I got to go to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom, I didn't have to go to the bathroom, I just didn't want to be on the floor. I went to the bathroom, I was trying to get myself together, I came back out, had to go back in the bathroom. People was walking out there, out in the lobby. They was falling out in the corner trying to hold themselves. It was like weird, but that was funny. I'll never forget that. That girl came with you, motherfucker. You ain't gonna kill me. And she just, how I'll leave when I had a chance with that sister. She came up that third time? Nah. Anyway, that's true. That's true. But that's symbolic. That's symbolic. And it's actually a beautiful ritual. You know, when we come together now, that's really true. That really actually happened. And the beautiful thing about church is that people come together in love and in goodwill. But however, they also don't know they're being played. Now that's the real truth. And they should be told that this is the church. And when you go to church, when they take you to church, they're supposed to take you to Ezekiel's wheels and explain all the degrees. And they're also supposed to find the one that your mother brought you in so they can give you a reading on your strengths and your weaknesses. This is why you look at conjunctions, sextiles, and squares to see things that hold you up in life. Or see the nature of marks on you. Now, this is why when women know themselves, when they really know the church, they build the bodies wisely. Meaning that a woman who knows divine nature will not mate with a male that's not harmonic with her energy, knowing that she's going to bring a faulty child here with problems. I mean, if you know it, you can work with it, but why do it that way? Why deal with the lower gate or the lower self-desires, the body of desires, when you know daggone well that them parents are supposed to be consulted and they're supposed to look at them charts so that you're not just going from the carnal position. Just like for you, so you'll know that if your mother brings you or conceives you in water, you're born in water. Air, right? Earth, fire. You don't make a fire with water. That water gonna be trying to put that fire out. And that fire gonna be steaming that water. So after you finish, you get used to the keisters for 5 months and stuff, then everything starts becoming disinterested. And you start battling because there's resistance. Or like if the parent, like you come see my daughter, you checking out my daughter, it ain't happening. Me and your parents are gonna talk. I wanna see what your chart is. Because you ain't just checking out her keisters and you're gonna be all fired up for 6 months and then you get bored because y'all really not harmonic. Then she's mad at you all day on time. Now y'all want to break up at 6 months. Only reason why you ain't left each other because you economically tied and you can't leave and all that kind of stuff. Because you're out of harmony. So basically you're going to look at the Trinity. You're going to look at the sun, the moon, and the ascendant. If 2 of them ain't matching, the matrimony's not happening. Cry all you want, ain't happening. But we don't do that no more. Check out, she tight, boy. We get married. We dated after the prom. Misery coming in doesn't mean that it's guaranteed. But you got to look at the chart. You know what I mean? And then they don't know that the marriage certificate belongs to the Pope. That marriage and matrimony is 2 different things. In divine culture is matrimony. In slave culture is marriage. And that too is astrology. It's what it is. It's a spell cast. 9th letter in the alphabet, I. So, the negative energy of Mars, worry and rage. If it lasts 3 years, you're lucky. It's a spell cast. When it's actually supposed to be holy matrimony. But they start following that rule. They don't even know it's a bank bond. Pope owns the eggs. And this is why, like Rockefeller set up the General Education Board in 1902 after they murdered Winona right off the Kelly Drive up there in Philadelphia. And of course they do the Mummers Parade celebrating your fall, Philadelphia. Assemble at 6th and Moore Street. And they set up the General Education Board to dumb your children down. Then the Pope claims wounds under the Mar Rage certificate. Certificate, look at the law book. It's a commercial instrument. Ain't got nothing to do with divine whatsoever. What happened? You tell these people that all y'all gotta do is go look up what is the real meaning in functional marriage certificate. And you see it starts with the popes. And it's a bank bond. So people, when they learn a little bit of this, they start talking about the birth certificate of bank bond. They don't talk about the marriage certificate of bank bond. Roosevelt just did that after Drew Ali crashed that second United States corporation in those of you who are given the certificate of the United States Corporation, 1925, that was done counter to Drew Ali when Drew Ali registered the Moorish Holy Temple of Science as a civic organization, 1925. Then they did that killed that United States Corporation. Then what they re-registered in Puerto Rico, and then they used the birth certificates to back their debt. Because they were bankrupted once by Lincoln, 1860, by Noble Drew Ali, 1913, and 1925. Then what happens is they covered it up, but it crashed anyway in 33. That's June the 5th. That's House Joint Resolution 192. Which is why I tell you all to read that, because even in that House Joint Resolution, and this is back to reminding you about claiming your estate. Let's go to, most of you are familiar with this, but I just want to remind you. Two things. We're going to go back to this. First, let's go to their Treaty of Rome. You know, this is the clergy's real oath. You know, like the clergy talk about, they are submitting the people to Jesus. You know, they'll say delivering or submitting the people to Jesus, right? And swoop that down a little bit to chapter to 3. Now, this is congressional records. So this is when all of your so-called politicians and scholars keep pretending they don't know this stuff. When you bring this information out, this congressional record, go to Article 3. Let's read this again, you all. Convinced that the principles of religion contribute most powerfully to keep nations in the state of passive obedience, which they owe to their princes. Does P-R-I-N-C-E-S spell Jesusness? All right, let's keep on reading. The high contracting parties, that means they got contracts. So that means they got secret contracts operating on you. Declare to be their intention to sustain in their respective states those measures which their clergy, is that C-L-E-R-G-Y, may adopt with the aim of ameliorating their own interests, intimately connected with the preservation of the authority of the princes, and the contracting powers join in offering their thanks to the Pope. Does P-O-P-E spell J-E-S-U-S? Thanks to the Pope for what he's already done for them, and solicit his constant cooperation in their views of submitting the nations. So they're submitting the nations to the Pope, not to Jesus. That's the clergy's oath. That's in the congressional records. And so this is back to Constantine. Pope Constantine, and they talking about they submit these people to Jesusness. Now you see why they don't have any problem asking their parishioners for a $60 million understand? And who's their boss? The Pope. Ain't no Jesus-ness. But they use Jesus as a front to get into people's pockets. That's congressional records, y'all. And this is what people pretend they don't know this stuff.
Well, you're just making that up because you don't like Reverend Jones because he's my cousin and stuff.
No. Suckers are coroners. And he works for the Pope.
No, he doesn't. He knows Jesus personally. I seen his number on cell phone. It's not for everybody, though.
It's like that kind of stuff.
You wouldn't understand.
Yes, I do. 2 and 2 is 4. And it ain't 3 and a half. Now, with the congressional records again, of course you know here, Mr. Speaker, we are here now in Chapter 11. This is Tropicon. Members of Congress are official trustees. So if you talk to trustees, you're talking about an estate, aren't you? That ain't theirs. Presiding over the greatest reorganization of any bankrupt entity. Does it say bankrupt country? Entity. So it's a private corporation, isn't it? In world history, the U.S. government. We are setting forth, hopefully, a blueprint for our future. There are some who say there's a coroner's report that will lead to our demise. Read this with me, y'all. It is an established fact that the United States federal government has been dissolved. What does the word dissolved mean? You mean they're recessed?
No more.
Oh, so, all right. By the Emergency Banking Act, March the 9th, 1933, that's Franklin Delano Roosevelt. 48 Statute 1 Public Law 89-719 declared by President Roosevelt being bankrupt and insolvent. House Joint Resolution 192, 73rd Congress in session, June the 5th, 1933, Joint Resolution to suspend the gold standard and abrogate the gold clause, dissolved the sovereign authority of the United States and the official capacities of all United States governmental officers, and departments, and is further evidence that the United States federal government exists today in name only. So these people that are operating are imposters, are they not? The thing that they're not telling you that this didn't begin with Franklin Delano Roosevelt, this began with Lincoln. And the platform which they're operating on was established, what is called the Act of Congress, February the 2nd, 1871. Already, you see? Now let's go into the congressional records. Let's go down to, and remember when Raleigh set up the old Canaanite temple commanding the Queen of England to honor the constitutions and treaties and stop calling our people black because they're the heirs of the estate. He crashed that United States. Let's look right here. When did Raleigh set up the old Canaanite temple? 1933. All right. Now this is back to reclaiming your estate. Accepting, acknowledging your right of estate. Prior, which means what? Before. Prior to 1913, most Americans own clear allodial title to property. You see the allodial clear title? She's reverting it back to its proper status. Failure to do so, which means you abandon your right of claim. So, prior to 1913, most Americans owned clear allodial title to property, free and clear of any liens or mortgages, until the Federal Reserve Act, 1913, hypothecated all property within the federal United States to the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, in which the trustees, stockholders, held legal title. The U.S. citizen tenant franchisee, they think they own their tenants, was registered as a beneficiary to the trust via his or her birth certificate in 1933. The federal United States hypothecated all of the present and future properties, assets, and labor of their quote-unquote subjects, the 14th Amendment U.S. citizen, to the Federal Reserve System. So you've been what? Pledged to back all of their bonds. It didn't begin now. It began in 1861. This is just a reorganization of another shell that was created after Durali crashed it. This is why you got to know the history. And this is why it's important for you to understand what he actually did, not what people are misrepresenting him as like some religious, holy-roly guy competing with some Islamic sect type thing. He's dealing with the world's largest estate, with the heirs of the world's largest estate that don't know they got an estate. That's why you have so many people keep misrepresenting what Durali presented, try to act like it's some religious belief, and you're really dealing with the world's largest estate. Religion goes with it, but that's secondary to the issue. It's your lost estate. And once you understand the correlation of dates, you can see the politics and you understand the politics. Now you understand what we were reading from the beginning. You're accepting the warranty deed and putting it in your trust. Failure to do so is already hypothecated. So your reversion means, as heir, you're claiming your estate. You're not allowing them to assume that you have not. This is why and where, when the sister was talking about the detail, why so detailed? Why? Because you lock them out. Because any opportunity that they have to assume that you're not making a claim is considered abandoned. And what they're actually saying is, any right not claimed doesn't exist, as far as they're concerned. If you didn't claim it, you ain't got it. So, what we're presenting to you is to get you into the right frame of mind. If you have the right frame of mind, some of these things that we present to you are examples. But what we really want you to do is think for yourself. Once you understand what's going on, the protocols are logical, meaning that we don't have to explain it to you. You comprehend it. But also, if you have an insight in what they're actually doing in the Congress and in the records, if you think that they don't know what they're doing to you, you're sorely mistaken. That's why we're showing you these documents. This is also to counter people amongst you who are trolls, who, when you start becoming conscious, will start condemning. They assume that you don't know this. They assume that you just came to the house and reawakening minds, heard Taji Guy or somebody else speak, think it's some kind of religious belief, or got an opinion that they can compare their opinions to different schools of thought, that type of thing. No, we're talking facts. This is their own stuff. They just know that these people don't read, so they ain't really too worried about these people competing or countering them, because they don't know what the swell's going on. They're busy dealing with beliefs that they control, that the people think came from Jesusness. You ain't got a dang thing to do with none of this Constantinian operations. Because that's what they're dealing with. And they say they're this. They're really dealing with this. But they think you don't know it. See, they know these people are dumb and lazy and don't read. They say, they boast with each other. And they say things along this order. Don't worry about them little pickaninnies. They will never compete because they can't read. And their lazy-ass parents won't read. They only deal with beliefs that we give them and control. And we will test them through Census Bureau counts and etc. to agree to be U.S. 14th Amendment citizens. And they're really what? Tenants, thinking they own stuff. And they spend their whole life thinking they're making payments. And they're really discharging and set off. But we set off for them because we're the trustees. That's what the corporate states are doing. This is why whenever they do foreclosures, you'll see the states and the police and the mortgage companies working together. And they come do what they call writs of execution and throw you out the house. Well, that's my grandma's house. That's state property. And you is too. That's what they're telling us. Give it a mic. One on the mic. So,
terms of the next census, which is, I think, 2020, we should be, if we're going to fill it out at all, we need to put down that we are Moors. Should we be
No, this is basically what it does. It doesn't apply to you
at all. So I said we should
you know to put them on notice if they assume that you're. See, this is what it is. They're making a body count, so they can do certain amount of sacrifices. It's like so for those who don't proclaim or answer, they can assume by default that you're the property. And those who fill them out need to know it's an agreement. It's a stock agreement. And if they make a mistake on it, they're stopped. If anything you do is give them on notice that you're an American national. An American national is an Al-Moroccan. An Al-Moroccan is a descendant of Moroccans. They're not U.S. citizens. They're not same status. This is the reason why they blind people who can't read by saying America as if it's a country when it isn't. Or they'll make blind statements like the Al-Moroccan or the American people. And the people don't challenge that. Europeans of European descent are not Americans. They're Europeans who are occupying America under unum sanctum policy. And so what they're doing, they're stealing your identity. And if you don't argue that, you're considered to abandon it. You ain't mad, I'm just straightening them up. You ain't American, Freddie.
So should you be filling it out at all, or no?
If it comes to you, you can send it attached if they see, because if they send it to you, guarantee it's going to be written all capital letters because it's talking about the estate. Now you can do the reversion on that and send that attached. Correct the record. Isn't that a correction? Instruct them. Failure to instruct them, they're assuming because they're already acting as trustees. And I know it's a little hard for us, but we're under subjugation. We're going to have to activate. Meaning that we're not in a position to be lazy. We're really not. And I understand people, under pressure and everything. We don't have the comfortable option of being lazy. It's dangerous. Give them the mic.
They call you in as a juror. Is that pretty much the same kind of thing?
Say it again.
If they call you in as a juror.
It's the same thing.
Same thing.
You would ask them, is this a commercial venue or criminal venue under Article 3? Is it land, sea, or air jurisdiction? And is it an article platform, or is it a foreign corporate commercial operations for human traffic? Stated for the record so I can know whether I want to be on the jury or not. Guaranteed they're going to send you home. No, I'm just, you got to know the questions. See, the questions would tell that magistrate who's a Mason that you know what's up.
So when you're filling out that form, because it says U.S. citizen,
yeah.
and then it gives you 5 questions, and then you
Yeah.
send it in.
So first you ain't a U.S. citizen, because if you are, you're stock and liable.
Gotcha.
So what would you do? An affidavit of acceptance of estate, which includes your status. This is why it's important for people to know that estate and status are one. Now, for yourself, because you haven't been here, most of you already know this. So again, see why certain things are redundant and necessary? So let's go to the Dundy case, 1855. This is 5 years before Lincoln was president. Right? So, this will give you concepts, because this is not new. Keep this in mind, none of this stuff is new. It may appear new information to some people, but it's not new. It's that they're awakened to what they were not aware of prior. it does not make them less liable or less responsible, because they're held to it either way. But ignorance of not knowing this does not excuse you, and you're not excused. Are we clear? Now, this Abraham Lincoln defends William Dundy, who was tagged as Black Bill. Now, Abraham Lincoln, the cartoon, nicknaming him Abraham Africanus the First. You need to understand this because it is the known fact that America is actually Morocco. That's why they have him dressed in Moorish clothes. In satire. Are we clear? Clear. Now, Black Laws of 1855. Among 10 original Abraham Lincoln documents discovered last summer in the DeWitt County Courthouse at Illinois is a bond for costs in William Dundy versus Joseph Spencer. Written but not signed by Abraham Lincoln, the bond was part of an interesting slander case, family disputes that degenerated into slanderous name-calling feuds frequently appeared in antebellum Illinois circuit courts. Antebellum means prior to the Civil War. All right? Such cases reflected the intent of American slander law to safeguard an individual's good reputation in the community against petty character assassination. Abraham Lincoln realized the value of reputation and declared in his first printed political speech that every man is said to have his peculiar ambition. I have no other so great as that of being truly esteemed of my fellow men. One unique slander case Abraham Lincoln argued at DeWitt County Circuit Court, Clinton, Illinois, is in the May and October 1855 terms, involved much more than a defamation of character, and suggested that Huck Finn's friend Jim might have reconsidered his plan of escape to freedom. I reckoned at 4 in the morning, I slipped in just before daylight and swim ashore and make to the woods on the Illinois side. In August of 1851, William Dundy, a dark-skinned young man of Portuguese descent. So you need to see his nationality is Portuguese, right? But recognize he's dark-skinned, right? So what is the fact that all scholars know? All scholars know that all people of African descent are Moors. No matter what nation state. Are we clear? There. So in August of 1851, William Dundy, a dark-skinned young man of Portuguese descent, married a European woman, Joseph Spencer's sister. A family quarrel ensued which became so bitter that in January 1855, Joseph Spencer, a European, claimed throughout the community that his brother-in-law, Black Bill, quote-unquote, was a Negro. Since 1819, Illinois state laws permitted quasi-slavery and restricted the immigration of free blacks into the state, as other northern states passed personal liberty laws granting additional rights to free blacks. Illinois state toughened its stance against them. Now notice that these are terms, these are caste terms, free blacks, and all these are caste terms, phrases. Illinois state toughened its stance against them. In 1848, Illinois state constitution required the General Assembly to pass such laws as will effectively prohibit free persons of color. See these different law phrases, you need to know what they mean. Free persons of color, that means artificial persons. Artificers. Translation, frauds. From immigrating to and settling in the state. Those prohibitions against human rights were passed as the Black Laws and went into force on February 12th of 1853, the same date of the future emancipators Lincoln's 44th birthday. William Dundy faced losing not only his reputation, but his marriage, his property, and his right to remain in Illinois. Section 10 of the 1853 Black Laws stated that every person who shall have 1/4 Negro blood shall be deemed a mulatto. William Dundy retained Abraham Lincoln to quash the possibility that he might be judged a Negro and therefore suffer the severe penalties under the 1853 Black Laws Act. Now, while we're reading this, I want you to pay attention to the damage that is done to you by agreeing to follow behind what is called black leaders who've been promoting that paradigm as an identity, knowing that it's a status, negative and pejorative. So this is a law case of 1855 to show you that this has not changed, it just ain't been taught to people who don't know better. Abraham Lincoln filed his declaration charging Joseph Spencer with slander on April 17th of 1855 and sought $1,000 in damages, which is big finance at the time, you must understand this. A game of legal chess occurred during the first hearing in May. Joseph Spencer's attorney, Clifton H. Moore, and Lawrence Weldon, also Europeans, filed a demurrer to link Abraham Lincoln's declaration, asserting that his charges were insufficient in law. Judge David Davis agreed that 2 of Abraham Lincoln's 3 charges were faulty. The case was continued, and Abraham Lincoln was allowed to amend the declaration. At the next term of court, October 1855, the Dundy case was argued before a jury. According to Joseph Spencer's attorney, Lawrence Weldon, Abraham Lincoln's talents as a trial lawyer were evident in his argument for William Dundy. Lawrence Weldon stated that Abraham Lincoln questioned Joseph Spencer's character by demonstrating how Joseph Spencer went from house to house gabbing that William Dundy was a nigger, quote unquote. Attorney Lawrence Weldon emphasized that Lincoln's tone and pronunciations had a curious touch of the ludicrous, which instead of detracting, seemed to add to the effect. Abraham Lincoln further undermined Joseph Spencer by using humor to persuade the jury that there was reasonable doubt regarding William Dundy's race. The attorney, Lawrence Weldon, recalled Abraham Lincoln's statement, "My client is not a Negro, though it is a crime to be a Negro, no crime to be born with a black skin. But my client is not a Negro. His skin may not be as white as ours, but I say he is not a Negro, though he may be a Moor." Abraham Lincoln. "Mr. Lincoln," interrupted Judge Davis, scarcely able to restrain a smile, "you mean a Moor, M-O-O-R, not Moore, M-O-O-R-E. Well, Your Honor, Moore, M-O-O-R, not Clifton H. Moore," replied Mr. Lincoln with a sweep of his long arm toward the table where Moore and I sat. "I say my client may be a Moor, but he is not a Negro." Abraham Lincoln. Though the account may be apocryphal, attorney Lawrence Weldon's recollection was characteristic of Abraham Lincoln's style. Abraham Lincoln then demolished the defendant's witness testimony. Attorneys Clifton H. Moore and Lawrence Weldon had secured several depositions from residents in Giles County, Tennessee, the Dundy family home. These witnesses stated that they had personally known the family and that the white community had regarded the Dundys as Negro or of mixed blood. Under cross-examination, Abraham Lincoln argued that the testimony was hearsay, as the witnesses admitted none of them lived within 30 miles of William Dundy residence. On October 18 of 1855, the jury returned a verdict of guilty and granted William Dundy $600 in damages plus court costs of $137.50. Abraham Lincoln charged a $25 fee, which Lawrence Weldon considered minimal. To avoid an appeal to Illinois State Supreme Court, Abraham Lincoln persuaded William Dundy to remit $400 of the judgment in return for the defendant releasing all errors which may exist in the court record. See, because on the Negro and Black branch, all of those are errors because they're false. Under Illinois state law, the defendant could not appeal the verdict, but could only appeal only on errors of procedure or evidence. So that means he was under the burden of proving that these things were true, which they're all frauds because they're brands. You see, Abraham Lincoln had taught Joseph Spencer an expensive lesson in domestic relations. Note, legal and lawful analysis on status and estate and other ancillary supports. And this is very important because you're going to need to know the notice or the nature of the argument, and then you understand why generations ago, if you called our people black, you had a fight. Now the people are so ignorant, they think it's an identity. But here it is put in status, in state, in time, so that you can understand the foundation of why that used to be that way, because they knew you were stealing their estate. The reader, researcher, or scholar is advised to review the foregoing synopsis of the William Dundy slander case of 1855 with keen considerations about the realities and facts that in law and in legal process, one's status also determines one's standing in relationship to one's estate. So you need to know that status and estate are relative. And when they call you Negro, black, and stuff like that, they're actually attacking your estate. If you didn't know that, now know that that's what it's really all about. And it's always been that. This is why other people coming from other jurisdictions, particularly other Africans and stuff, no one likes black people. They don't trust you because you give up your estate, sell yourself out, and then complain about the conditions. And then try to call them black too. They ain't giving up their birthright just because you gave up yours. And ignorance don't excuse you. Thus, in this case, that's the William Dundy case, the spurious tags, brands, and nom de guerre, such as black and Negro, being pejorative and status compromising nom de guerre and misnomers, had, can, and will create serious and debilitating social and economic repercussions in relationship to William Dundy's estate. Such a damaged reputation would place all of his present and future hereditaments at risk and subject to his cheat. Get used to those terms because that's what's been happening to these people. Keep in mind that the European Roman colonial unum sanctum bulla and the doctrine of discovery conquest policies are operative and in effect upon the lands and the aboriginal natural peoples of North America. These and other supporting bullas were imposed upon peoples of the Western Hemisphere. Therefore, one must be aware of the Inquisition acts and edicts of the past and thus be more cognizant of the social, economic, and political acts and actions, politics of the present. A nom de guerre is in its most literal meaning and application a war name, a pseudonym. So you need to understand that blacks and Negroes are actually nom de guerre that are used to steal people's birthright. So we take you back to 1855 to put it in perspective, because it's not taught today, because so-called trolls or black leaders are paid to keep our people thinking that human beings are crayons, which makes you escheatable by all corporate state operatives. This is why you make acknowledgement of your warranty deed whenever you transfer those papers and you claim yourself as steward, because you're either that or you are declared as a tenant franchisee, and all of your work, your labor, all your input is state property, and when they get ready to hypothecate it publicly, they will. They'll just call it eminent domain. And our people need to know what's happening to it. It ain't racism and prejudice, it's birthright theft. And we keep failing to speak up. Are we clear? All right. Peace, good brother.
Thank you.
All right. Now, in the nature of the beginning document, affidavit of right of claim of estate, and your acceptance of the warranty deed is the same thing you would do with any registered instrument, whether it's your conveyance of a car, whether it's a house, or any other property or inheritance. Failure to do so, it is already considered abandoned. So you do not allow them to assume that your status is dead, because they already do, because it's already hypothecated. So you have to make the argument to take it out of hypothecation. Even though they may maintain a belligerent status, you must put it on the record that you are claiming them, because basically what you're saying, that they're in breach of honor of the trustee position that they're claiming. And when you nationalize, that's exactly what you're saying. And then they can't deny it because you have documents that have proved that you've done it. You're not arguing after the fact. So, while they may maintain a belligerent stance, what you have done, whether you know it or not, what you should know it, is that you killed the viability of all bonds get written against that 14th Amendment estate, which is a Sister QV Cetus Trust operation. And the agencies, the corporate state agencies and agents are actually acting as third-party interlopers against the estate for the corporate state, for the popes of Rome. They're deputy knights. And then you go hire a lawyer, you just hired a bounty hunter with a tie, who's an officer of the court, who's really, you're giving him leave, and he's going to sell you. Islam, give the mic. You need to know these things because it'll make sense. When you understand how these things operate, all of the other stuff makes sense to you. But if you don't know the politics, you have to think hard. What does this mean? What do I have to say? Well, you know, it gets muddy. It's not gray when you understand what's going on. Islam, this is
an online question. They're asking why you think it is that more states are legalizing so-called marijuana, and I want to add a caveat to that.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Because
for
they're broke
the hundreds
and now they're.
And what does that mean for the hundreds and thousands of Moors and other
That's
folks
in the jail. That
are in
Clinton
jail?
them sent to jail.
Yes.
All right. Now, you got to remember one of the things that they wanted to do, the Rockefellers wanted to do, was to accelerate the Executive Order 11490, and that's the genocide policy to kill off the heirs. So one of the things they needed to do was break up the so-called black family to accelerate the breakup. So under the Clinton operation, this is why you see, I think it's I can't read, I'm not sure, because I usually think these things right away, but I think it's Executive Order 100, where they privatized all things, and you see them using human capital. As a matter of fact, I'll bring the document up and I'll present it. And this is for the purpose of accelerating the breakup of the so-called black families. And so more males, and then they start going after the women. The growth of women's prisons and the expert of males being taken from the home in prison under marijuana possession and a whole bunch of other stuff like that was under the Clinton administration, which exceeds all other presidents combined. And the real deal of it is that people need to understand that operation and the Executive 100 of privatization. So the prisons are actually private unum sanctum contractors doing human trafficking and accelerating the genocide program of Executive Order 11490 under the guise of government. Keep in mind, they're not really government. They're actually private. And so when we ask questions related to these operations, we must always have that as a canvas in the back to understand that they're exercising unum sanctum. This is why if you even do research in the court records and where they're making land grabs and stuff like that, you will find that the doctrine of discovery is still in operation to this very, very day. But anyway, repeat your question again, and
basically why were so many more states are legalizing it and modify the part.
all right, let's back up. All of the modern wars executed by the United States Corporation Company, military operations registered from Washington, District of Columbia, were drug wars, and them actually taking control of opium, whether it's Vietnam, whether it's the China War, etc., Japanese War, when they bombed Japan with their nuclear atom bombs, etc. You have to know the real history in order to understand the policies that they're making today. So they're legalizing it because the rest of the world is dumping all of their bonds. So remember that they banned marijuana, which is actually a food crop, a healing crop, and they used to make hemp rope out. That's what hemp rope is. And the DuPont family, which is part of the oligarchy set up by the kingship oligarchs in 1781, all right, was competing with the nylon chemical operations that the DuPont family has started, particularly selling women's stockings and stuff. So they banned hemp or the marijuana actually for political purposes. We're not saying whether it's good for you or bad for you. We're not arguing that. We're talking about what it was really banned for the DuPont family, located in Delaware. All right? And so now that the nation states, the nation states we're talking about around the world, are dumping the U.S. bonds, they need a new source of income. Plus, the Manchurian Masons, some of the P2 Masons of the Vatican, some of them, and some of your Asiatic African countries are dumping the UST bonds, so and Putin's been interrupting their Afghan poppy trade. So they're legalizing marijuana in some states so that they control the distribution of it. Because the whole issue of banning marijuana was political. It really didn't have at its root a true health issue that they presented. Tobacco is more poisonous, if you get the point. Now, so that's its purpose. They're using it as a source of income and control. In other words, the Don is coming in the open, when actually they was always behind it anyway. But the prison sentences that were put on Asiatics under the black codes were for control purposes. And by different nations of the world no longer accepting their T-bonds, they have to come from behind the shadows because they got to keep funding their war machine. So that's why different corporate states are legalizing marijuana. You need to understand the politics. Don't look at it just the surface. You really need to understand the politics.
But now it's being legalized. So
Get a mic.
What does it mean? What does it mean for, like I said, all of those who are serving
These ridiculous prison sentences as a result of something.
Most of them don't understand status, so they wouldn't know how to make a retroactive claim anyway.
Okay.
Now, a few who recognize the fraud can actually have all of those sentences revisited and have it expunged. But then they also got a lot of suits. So they're caught in kind of a quandary. Because this can also spiral into multiple suits. Because they're going to have to compensate people for the time that they've been in prison. Because they're doing what you call this is what is called a de facto action, a de facto legislative action. So now to justify it, shouldn't they be put in jail?
You would think.
Meaning that if some people got locked up for having half an ounce pack of this stuff, these are so-called, I say they are, so-called public servants. Now committing criminality, shouldn't they be in jail? And they talking about fields of it and getting finance from it. What it simply is the unum sanctum policy, and then what is called the parentis principle. Parents parentis. Actually, it's parents parentis. This is where the corporate state claims to be the mother-father. But
I have a friend from years and years and years ago that under the three-strike policy, who actually had an addiction, was addicted, and was what I would call, did low-level crime. You know how when you're addicted, they may rob somebody or something. No, nobody got harmed, but under the three strikes, he was sentenced to life in prison here in here in the state of Delaware.
yeah.
I researched his case online and pulled up all his attempts to file to have his sentence revisited or commuted based on the fact that if he was addicted, he was never given treatment.
Yeah.
And they have refused.
Now, aren't we talking unum sanctum and doctrine of discovery? Because that the morality and ethics of the argument of the law was not really ever its root. Its root was to reduce and to attack the black families, to remove the males.
So-called black families.
Well, listen, so the black families is not an identity, it's a caste. It's a caste. And how do you do the genocide? Under the guise of government. Under the guise of government. They're not government. And then these people, 9 times out of 10, it is probably, and it's not a negative, I'm not knocking, I'm just saying, 9 times out of 10, he's probably a Smith, Jones, or Johnson. He's already their property. So that means he's been transacting business in their name. He has no standing in law in the first place. This is a side. This Dundy case is a perfect example of it. See, because one of the reasons why the Europeans branded the Moors was to make them non-heritable. This is another reason why I read this particular paragraph, because status and the state are equals. Let's go on with this, and so I think this can help answer some of the questions or some of the concept. Status is the standing, the state, or the condition of the person. It relates to the legal relation of the individual to the rest of the community. Status relates to the rights, the duties, the capacities, and to the incapacities which determine a person to a given class. It is a legal, personal relationship, not temporary in its nature, nor terminable at the mere will of the parties with which third parties and the state are concerned. And while the term status implies relation, it is not a mere relation. Status also means a state, because status signifies the condition or the circumstances in which one stands with regard to his property. Ancient and modern jurisprudence. Henry Campbell Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. Estate. Estate is the interest which one has in lands or in any other subject or property. An estate in lands, tenements, and hereditaments signifies such interest as the tenant has therein. In this sense, estate, quote unquote, is constantly used in conveyances in connection with the words right, quote unquote, title, quote unquote, and interest, quote unquote, and is in a great degree synonymous with all of them. Ancient and modern jurisprudence.
And the last
Give it a mic. Keep the mic.
I'm just giving questions pop up. Comment has to do with what do you think about the fact that the medical marijuana that they have now is seedless GMOs?
And again, it's part of the genocide operations. None of this stuff. See, this is the point. When you know what's going on, you're not. See, this is where the naivety comes in. Where the people are looking at these people as legitimate government when they're Inquisition operatives. And so when you're looking at the GMO is military operations. The Food and Drug Administration is a military platform. The church is a military platform. And these people keep thinking it's something else. This is why we're giving them documentation. You know why? If you sit and have a general conversation with people talking this information, they think it's what a lot of people say, that's that Moorish stuff. or that's that Moore's opinion, or Taji guy is saying that stuff. He's making that stuff up. This is their own documents. You know, and so the deal of it is, they're depending on, one, that these people don't read anymore. They're scared of books. They'll invest in $150 sneaks before they'll invest in a $10 book.
Right.
They will buy a pack of weed or blunt that's been laced to alter their brainwave before they'll eat good food or even buy a book that tells them the herbs that are good for them in the woods that they keep poisoning with Roundup, which is actually cancer causing. You know, all of this kind of stuff. This stuff is amazing, amazing, amazing. And this is another reason why a lot of times there's certain documents that I'll go to in the lecture, because people you even have trolls, that they pay trolls, even on our side. You know, people that some alleged conscious Moors and other so-called black leader guys that are paid to go out to try to discredit what we're doing. Their purpose is to dissuade the people from looking at facts that get caught up in emotions of the personalities. Are we clear? Clear. And so you go to documentation because you already know that there's going to be a counter operation. You don't guess it. You're supposed to already know that it is. You know, so you don't act surprised and you don't sit around arguing or engaging them. What you do is get the work done and try to get this information to people who do not know, because the people's absence of information is where the damage is. The bull, this dragon, only lives because the people are sluggish. They have a sluggish will, they're asleep, and they're lethargic, and they think they have religion, they think they have money, and they think they have law, and they have neither. And you can't tell them anything because their beliefs, not their knowledge, their beliefs are strong. Their faith, fiat, is strong. And they're being played. You know, and so when you start talking facts and documents and records, most of them ain't interested. It's going to take too much time to work with this. They're lazy. And this is back, and they're trained to be lazy. And then they're trained to be anti-books. Because books, you know, you talking books and stuff like that, you're talking anti-Jesus. You're just supposed to have blind faith. Believe what Rev told you. You know, even though they see them badges on them cars in the favorite parking area. Meanwhile, Rev talking against masonry and astrology, and they got them badges right on the car. You see them mothers and matrons of the church got them Eastern Star badges on with the 5 points on it, with roof and everything on it. Yeah, go ahead.
Another question.
Give her the mic.
Question is, before the Republic was set up, were tribes, Northgate, in treaty with Great Britain explaining the drop-off of Europeans? So I understand the British Crown has mulatto blood. Yeah, this is the reason why, like for instance, when you go into world diplomatic records, while they'll hide pictures of George III, Queen Charlotte, you'll see true scholars, real scholars, say like Joel A. Rogers, as an example, who will go into European history and show you the family crest of a lot of these Europeans, and all of them have Moors in their crest. And then you'll see these so-called black leaders run around and act like they don't know who Moors are, or like they never heard of it. They'll even talk about Columbus's voyage and the fall of the Red House, which is the Alhambra, and Colombo's voyage, and the Gama, and all of them trying to overcome the Moors. And they merged their kingdoms, and after Isabella and Ferdinand married, then Al-Andalusia was called Spain thereafter. And they'll tell in all European history that the Europeans were not able to come to the Western Hemisphere until Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand merged their kingdoms and defeated the Moors. And then they were able to come into the Western Hemisphere. And then these so-called paid-off black leaders talk about they don't know who the Moors are. And like they're not Moors. These are called by the Europeans
Write this down, Moriscos and Conversos, and do the research, and the Europeans will tell you who these so-called black people are. They're traitor Moors. This is why they will not acknowledge their Moorish bloodline, because they were paid off to tell these people that they were people of color and black people and Negroes, which means monkey, because they know these people can't read. And once they get our people to agree to that 14th Amendment, that's that 14th Amendment person, etc., and the hiding of the nobility clause, the 13th, they call it the 1320. That's the original nobility clause of the organic constitution with its 20 sections. All right, and this is where you see the barristers of England cannot hold an office in the United States. And this is why you see Obama, when Obama went to Egypt, he exposed that the American Constitution comes from Muslim law. And then he shows you the true American flag. And when you seen Hillary speak from the Ben Franklin room, showing you the real American flag, after that Benghazi incident, and then you'll see them not publish or suppress the history of the iftar dinners that are held at the palace, particularly like one held by Thomas Jefferson, who you knew was a minister plenipotentiary with the formation, negotiation of the treaty, the world's oldest treaty that Obama was talking about. And he'll talk about the agreement of 1790. And he's talking about the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. And that's the Treaty of Peace and Friendship between the Moroccan Empire and the United States. And you'll see that Thomas Jefferson, 1805, had iftar dinner with the Moroccan ambassador from Tunis. And that tradition has been maintained secretly and sometimes open, even up to the Clinton administration. And you see, because of the dynamics of the Khazarians, of the families in Saudi Arabia, who are really not Muslims, most of them are Satan worshippers who were set up in there by the British Crown to upset that whole area. And now that they've been secretly trying to make in the around the corner agreements with China, etc., because they know the old Silk Road is going to be reestablished and the world is not buying UST bonds, you'll see those rifts going on. Once you understand a lot of this background that we're talking about, you understand the politics, the world politics. It's all of it is based on the unum sanctum bulla, the regulation and management and administration of the world global estates or global trust run by the Jesuits with the law of the finance and the false counterfeit instruments pushed around the world from Westminster, District of London, Central District, and the enforcement of the Unum Sanctum Dum Diversus Sister QV Trust Act of 1666, 1666, enforced by the United States Service Corporation, pretending to be a country since 1861, Washington, D.C. All of them are sovereign city-states, trinity operations of the Inquisition that didn't end. And this is actually the politics and what's going on, which is, again, why we emphasize when we opened up this class, the acceptance and acknowledgement of your estate. Because it's all hypothecated. And if you comprehend what we've been telling you, most of the questions you would answer yourself. But it's good that they ask the questions because it gives people who don't really kind of understand this or comprehend this a view to look at this. You know, because you're going to have to keep beating the people with this because they have to be purged. They must be cleansed. They must be baptized. They must be reborn with a new mind, not a new body, with a new mind, because their concepts are all wrong. Doesn't mean that they're dumb. They lack information.
The truth.
Anything else? All right. So again, some of these things that you'll see us in the process of answering certain questions, we'll go back to things that we've gone over with them at different times. And this is why this is important. People who have been trained in belief systems have a tendency, when problems are presented, to keep making things up or talking about versions. Truth does not come in versions. It does not change or pass away. This is why certain fundamental things we will go to bring them back to a proper state of mind. This is another reason why I started sharing the Dundy case, to put people in a state of mind of their forefathers so they can understand the thought patterns then that do not exist now because they lack this information. This is what makes even the Dundy case important to understand. Like many of the youth who don't have too much reference point, you know, anybody say below 45 or something like that, they may have heard, but they didn't understand really why, if you used to call our people black or Negro, you had a fight. But they knew it took place, and they hear about it, but they can't relate to it. They have no reference. That's why I took them back to 1800s to show them why you had a fight. Because they're stealing your birthright. If you come under the black coat, they can steal all your property. It's called cheat. Now our people just think it's Afrocentricity. And that means the carbon hotep of the universe. And they're proud. But they just say they're proud of being a serf. And that's an agreement. You see, and so this is again, but they'll say, and they don't hide it, it is always said, and it is not an unknown factor, that culture is in the language. And then these people use connotative linguistics trying to be free. They don't go together. Allodial and feudal are opposites. The United States Republic is based on allodial and allodium recognition under constitutions and treaties. The U.S. democracy is an absolute feudal platform established since 1861. It's documented. That's why we went to the congressional records. And this is why a lot of times we'll go to House Joint Resolution 192 so that a thinking person can recognize the correlation. Drew Lee starts the old Canaanite Temple, 1913. Woodrow Wilson converts all the allodial titles, thank you, sis, all the allodial titles to mortgages and deeds, 1913. Now you ask all these people that know Jesus, God, Allah, Moses, Muhammad about an allodial title, and they won't even know what you're talking about. We're talking contemporary. Then 1925, Drew Ali set up, registered the Moorish Holy Temple of Science as a civic organization, which teaches government. Then he tells the people, and it's documented, Marcus Mosiah Garvey was a forerunner, and he taught absolute government and civics. And then these people turn around and say they was just teaching beliefs and don't know civics, which makes them incompetent. Do you understand? Then, 1925, to counter Noble Drawley, they re-registered the United States Service Corporation in Florida and in New York, which I've given you all the documents of their corporate operations. Then 1933, crashed anyway. 1933, then 1929, they got rid of Drawley. 1933, it crashed anyway. And then they re-registered in Puerto Rico. That's under Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Then they start bonding these people's birth certificates because all of their bonds were dead. Even if you look dates and you look at the congressional records, you can see the sequence, you can see the correlations. And all scholars know this stuff. And we show these things because we need people for themselves to start thinking again. Yeah. You know, not accept what we're saying, just look at what we're saying. Just look at it. And then do some reference research. Because what will occur, not only will half the questions that are asked not be asked, instead of asking questions, they'll be sharing new information. And it's not that we don't have other information. It's just that the forum keeps us in a certain area to help develop people. as they develop, we could take them further, but there's no need to give them more carts when they don't know where the horse goes, if you get the whole point. And so what we're trying to do is honestly get our people enough information where they can stop feeling subject or intimidated. That this is their birthright like it is ours. See, a lot of times people have a tendency to, our people have been trained to this followership mentality so long that, like I'll talk to people from around the country, and some people out off the land in other countries, and they'll say things to me like, oh, I've been following you on YouTube, and blah, blah, blah. I said, don't follow me. Don't follow nobody. Take what I say and prove it wrong. And meet your master. Your master is self. We're just sharing information so that we can get people thinking or loyal together and start getting some things done to leave a clean platform for the coming generations who have been constantly deceived by their parents with belief systems that are actually coming from Rome, and they've been lying on Jesus and lying on Muhammad. You know, but it can't be because I say so. It must be because you now know so. And once you know so, now you're on your path to liberation.
Islam. A question, I don't know if you can answer.
Go ahead.
It's kind of lengthy, but I'll just.
But that's go ahead. Fine.
The question is, can you please discuss the issues of, this is why I just think it may take some time, 1, group economics, 2, aggregation, 3, moving in public and private, and 4, how to properly set up viable business as a Moorish national.
All right. Now, number 1, when we went into a House Joint Resolution 192, it must be already comprehended that all rights, properties, liberties, etc., have already been hypothecated. The answer would be what we opened up with, a claim of your estate. Any business is already hypothecated. So if you know that, then you should be thinking along the order, what must we start doing to start securing that business, which is already hypothecated? Do you see where I'm coming from? See, so the concept is not to start doing things, to recognize that it should already be done. So the business that we should be about in our communities, with all, and understand this, and I'm not criticizing, I'm just identifying. Are we clear? The Moorish Science Temple of America was set up to take care of these matters. If you study the history, the structure, what Drawley did, look at the bylaws, Constitution and bylaws of the Moorish Science Temple of America. It's already in place to have taken care of these things. We won't argue whether or not it's been done or not. It's clear that it has not been done. So we don't need to talk about the infiltration and all that stuff. We're not even going to go there. The deal is we're trying to give information to people to start saving themselves, since those who were put in place in authority to carry out their duties have breached their trust. And people have a tendency to not identify themselves by their pedigree or their bloodline. They've been identifying themselves by the clothes that they belong to, by the organizations that they belong to, not knowing that that's a wrong concept. It does not mean that don't mean you dismiss the churches, mosques, synagogues, temples that you belong to. They are vehicles or instrument for learning, but they are not the estate nor your pedigree. Not to be confused. Are we clear? When you look at people around Earth planet, when they travel other parts of the world, they do not deny their pedigree. For instance, like, they may have different so-called religions. Like you might have, I've talked to people who are Buddhists, Confucianists, Muslim, Sikhs, etc. And I'm talking about direct conversations. And now, but if you want to talk about their nationalities, all 3 of them you can find in China. And in Hindustan, Sindh, what we call India. But when they go into the world, they are Sind, or what you call Hindustan. Here in the north, to get along with the Europeans to do business, they'll go along with the Indian brand that they know is not who they are. But when they buy and sell, they're Hindustani. Even if they don't like each other. The unity of humanity on earth is their nativity. The nativity is called the honor of their mothers and fathers, their heritability, their capacity to inherit. That nativity is called nationality all over the world. The only people that continue to violate that is the people in North America that thinks human beings are crayons and insist on claiming to be black. And then when the black codes are enforced, they want to talk about we need unity. It will never happen because the unity is the recognition of your nativity. That reverts to your heritability. That's why they call heritability inheritance. And these are simplicities that need to be taught. But before these people can accept it, they must know the history because they will not dump that paradigm until they know the function of things. This is why certain things must be redundantly taught because they keep reverting back to their rat training. The rat training is the systematic mind control system set up by the Jesuit order and the connotative linguistics, which is commonly called hood language. And so immediately when we start reverting to the hood language, thinking it means Ebonics, it was really set up by the priesthood to keep the status quo of what is called the serf caste. And the serf caste is connotatively referred to as the slave caste. All right? And that's why it is loosely equated with so-called black culture. Because it's actually a mind control system. And then to keep them in that status, they needed overseers to convince them to be 14th Amendment Negro people, U.S. citizens, not knowing its stock. That's why it's promoted as a identity when they know it's a nom de guerre. This is another reason why I took you to the Dundy case to show you in context what it actually means, how it actually functions, and why it's important to nationalize. Meaning that if you didn't give people documents and take them back into law and history and show that to go together, they'll think it's just a mere opinion or that you're trying to convert them out of their salvation religion. Even though they're catching all the hell in the world, they think they're saved. The babies are dying younger and younger on the street, but they're saved. Their families are all broke up. Oh, but they're saved. Can't maintain personal relationships. Oh, but they're saved. IRS takes all of their stuff, but they're saved. No, they're full of stuff, and they need to be pulled to the table and stop selling out the next generation, which is why we're here at the House of Reawakening Minds. And why we also appreciate you, even being injured, smiling with your beautiful smile like you've always done, in pain, sheltering your pain, etc., to make sure that this information gets to the people, and you're appreciated.
Islam.
And welcome home, too.
Islam.
And welcome back.
Islam. And Big Willie.
And again, and as we go along these lessons, we'll go into different aspects of the estate and revert back to certain documentation to give people support. See, because when they have, this is why also when people come to the House of Reawakening Minds, we will freely give them the information on the flash drive so they can have reference points. Because it leaves no doubt what's going on. Meaning there's a lot more that can be told. But we put enough on that flash drive, keep them busy for 10 years. And if they pay attention to it, we're giving them documents where these people are telling you themselves what they're doing to you. See, so they don't have to, just because we're talking these things, it's sort of like a lot of conscious wars are exposing this information, and people have a tendency, therefore, to think it is our information exclusive to others. Everybody knows this stuff but us. We're the cards and don't know that we're in the game.
Don't know we being played.
Yeah, we're being played, and talking about, well, I ain't into that. Well, you're the card that just like, we don't get it. And I comprehend it. So we have to try to, and like I said, and like we were talking before, when I'm communicating with people, I don't try to convince them of anything. I go to their own documents and then explain the history and the politics around the documents so that anybody, even a child, can see it. If you can get them to stop believing and just pay attention to the facts. And once they start doing that, they themselves will purge. But one of the things, and I do comprehend and understand it, people are uncomfortable when they discover that they've been played all their lives. And then a lot of people who they've trusted, when they have to think in the back of their mind, this sucker knew this stuff all the time and didn't tell me. And been taking $5 from me, making me thinking that Jesus got a bank account in Chase Manhattan. So he was down at the Bahamas with Bertha Butt. Sings with the choir, with Jesus' hair. You know, then they're going to take time for them to purge themselves of their naivety. They're going to get angry first. Don't get angry. Remember, you agreed to this, so therefore you're part of it. Take responsibility and understand in reality what the Kabbalistic phrase means when it says every man, every woman, and every child must confess their own and worship under their own vine and fig tree. In a basic word, in civics, that would be called nationalization. That means acknowledge your nativity, acknowledge your mother. You have no inheritance because you don't acknowledge your mother, because that's where your inheritance comes from. This is why in all your secret societies, they will give the lesson of Ruth the Moabitess and why that's common, and then people don't make the relationship. They know that Ruth was Yahshua's great-great-grandmother, and they know that they modified his name at the Nicene Council and then called him Zeus, the Roman god, Jesus, Jesus. That is the code word, the password, and that the people are really worshiping the Roman god Zeus via Constantine and not Yahushua, who's really the prophet, whose name the popes of Rome altered after they murdered him. You know, the same Jesus that they talk about they love. So the hypocrisy goes on to the extreme. And because people are sensitive, you can't come at them like that. You don't try to convert them. Give them their own documents. Get them in the habit of going to the record. Then they can't charge you anymore. Because as long as they think it's a belief, they can dismiss, or they use it as an excuse to dismiss. But once you show them the documents, now they're caught. They can either honor their mothers and fathers, or they don't have to, but there's a price to it. Problem is that they're paying the price now dearly. And then a lot of people are getting confused, and they need to be rescued. But they must rescue themselves. They must rescue themselves, because it's their duty and their responsibility to do this work just like it is ours. Just because we may make some sacrifices of our personal lives to get this information to people, it is not our information. It is your birthright upon which we're discussing these issues. And that must be clear to everyone listening. However, we will gladly answer whatever questions we can. But you must start to answering them yourself. Because this is also in the book that they say they believe in, where it says, I hold my hand out all the day long to a hard-hearted and rebellious people who are not called by my name. When they repent from their sinful ways, I will heal their land. L-A-N-D. So let's go in that Dundy case and go look at land. That's cheap, wilting, and there's black that they've been calling themselves. And with that claiming of the estate, excuse me, this is the status of the people. this is what's been going on. Estate left vacant and without there being anyone in existence able to make a claim thereto. Now, with the brand system, such persons are called wards of estate. Now, a ward of estate is not heritable in law, unless that person, he or she, comes out of that wardship status. If they fail to come out of the wardship status, thereto they remain. And the state logically operatives, because the operatives are hiding behind the LLC of the state to actually rob people. So people are talking about the state entity instead of the persons who are operating it. And so by default, as trustees, they're reaping the benefit because the heir is denied it because the heir consistently shows constitutional inferiority because they won't enforce the Constitution. Therefore, the corporate state operatives are constantly using our estate. This is why they continuously create what you call bond derivatives on top of the bond derivatives, fractionalizing it and then selling it around the world. And this is so they're dealing with resources via the estate. They're not dealing with money. So if they can get you to argue money, you just made an incompetent argument because you're not really dealing with money and you're not allowed to have money. And because it's private commercial papers for bookkeeping purposes, when you transfer it without qualification, you're actually dealing a debt new and it's actually private. So they have right to claim it or to what? Tax it. Because it isn't money, it's private commercial paper. So if you don't state it when you convert with it, then they take and they discharge on your behalf the alleged debt. It's a set off. It doesn't disappear. It's discharged. Are we clear? Means it doesn't disappear, it accumulates. So, and this is back to where you claim your estate and you claim the United States operatives and their obligations as trustees to clear the debt that's actually their own. This is why they continue to set up instruments by which they try to imply or get the people to agree to be U.S. citizens, not knowing that they're saying they're stock options. Now, whenever, and this is important for listeners to really understand, whenever the word citizen is used in actual process, not in true definition, but in process, it's equated with nationality. So when you say citizen, you're saying nation state. However, if you don't name the nation state, you're still in the middle of the sea. And then they can hypothecate you under sea piracy. Piracy on the land is actually called privateering. So when you hear privateering, the Barristers Association is actually being privateers. They're actually land pirates. So what they're doing under the rule of booty and prize, they're taking advantage of so-called black people. This is the reason why, like when so-called black people come to court, they can tell you to shut up. And then people say, I'm representing myself. And they say, you can't. Because you just said you're a cardboard. So cardboard can't speak. Because that's a representation. Because a free man or woman present themselves. So all these little subtleties we know that people need to comprehend. And so we do the best that we can by bringing new pieces of information and then tying it to establish things so that people can start making correlations. Because as they make correlations, they start purging, they start comprehending what's really going on. Because the issue is, this is what the real issue is. We know that our people have pride, they have a sense of dignity, although in truth, most of them don't qualify for it, but they still have it, and their ego is in front. So they don't want nobody to remind them that they're running around in the real world with training wheels. With the rest of the world is riding 10 speeds, and we still got tricycle training wheels, and we don't want nobody to look at that we got training wheels. And we never win the race, because we run around training wheels. We're here to try to get the people qualified to take off them training wheels, and just allowing them to continue to promote their own ignorance. And trying to get past their egos, because they try to protect their image of their clubs and all of this stuff that's been injuring them to death. Knowing that their leader guys know this information. Knowing that they don't know that these people are trolls that keep trying to counter this information. Do you understand? And that when it really boils down, that you yourself must be able to defend your position. So how do you defend what you do not know? So this is again why, while we're giving some of this information, we'll go to documents, and certain documents we'll go over redundantly, because the people will start recognizing the correlation.
I just got, believe it or not, because you've been coming here since 2011, and some things it's probably taken me 3-4 years or more to get. But the Dundy case, you've been maybe in the last several months going over that, and today the light bulb went on about the significance of it, because I realized that while William Dundy skin was dark, it wasn't so much, it was not the color of his skin that was an issue.
It's the legal status.
It's the legal status. It finally clicked to me why, that case is so significant.
Yes, and it's also why we give support with both escheat, land, estate, hereditaments, status, and estate, because that's actually what the argument is. But when you know, and which you do know, and we all know, that our people don't know that law and history goes together. They're not taught that. But we do know that scholars, teachers, and people who belong to what you call Masonic orders are given the sovereign knowledge of government. Masonry really is government, if you understand. And a preservation of the ancient knowledge of the ancient ones, which is our culture, that our people keep dismissing like there's some kind of club, fraternal order belief that has nothing to do with us. It has every damn thing to do with you. Do you understand? They are given limited degrees, but they're given enough to recognize that the masses are civiliter mortuus, or what you call dead in the view of law, and don't even know that they're dead. And they deal with beliefs instead of facts. Do you understand? So Masonry is a way that Renaissance men have preserved a lot of the ancient knowledge. And you can grow in it, meaning that you don't have to be limited, but it gives you enough to begin to liberate you. That's why it's called free Masonry, if you understand, because you're actually being liberated. But at the same time, with many people who are even Masons and Eastern Stars will condemn it publicly to keep the dummies from examining it. Because what will happen when they start making correlations, they start recognizing the institutions they belong to are clandestine. They're frauds. And that the masses are under mind control. They think they know the Lord and Jesus. They don't know that they're worshiping the lords of London. They think it's lords in heaven of God of Jesusness. It's the lords of London. You understand? And even most of these guys that are under the black codes that come in Masonry are controlled by the Grand Lodge of London. Even they are being hoodwinked. This is why Dwali had to pull the wool off of all of them, if you understand. Because it is your knowledge, but it still must be cleaned up. This is why, like, a lot of, Masons from around the world, or Knights Templars, or people who really understand this, will call Masons who continue to call themselves black, call them clandestine. One of the first lessons they come in them orders is root them Moabites. And then they come out, still claim to be black, they're clandestine. She's a Moabite and so are they. But anyway. Peace, Islam, peace, bro. And so once you understand the real history, a lot of things you're not offended by, you look at them differently. And one of the major things is to get over yourself. Get over your ego. get humble. It doesn't mean be carpet for anyone, but humble yourself and look at things. An intelligent man or woman can look at information objectively without necessarily accepting it, but will measure it by merit. And the merit will always be what you call maxims of law. Because the maxims of law are hermetic in their character, which means they are universal. And they're divinely proven true. And so when people belong to secret societies like Masonry or something like that, they're really given what you call hermetic foundations. Some people come there to get drunk and party, and some people come there to raise or to learn. How you come, no matter which side of that compass that you come on, you come to really set a true foundation underneath yourself of what's really going on the planet. This is also why a lot of people that are Masons can't actually talk to some of the people that are caught in beliefs. It's not that they're just hiding things from them. It's that you're talking logic to people who have the mentality of boys and girls. And it's almost like they'll get mad at you. Because they know the Lord and you don't type thing. They worship the Lords of London. They lying on Jesus, they worshiping Constantine. You tell them they ain't Christians, they think you're attacking Jesus, God, and Lord, and heavens, and everything, and you got demons. They don't even know the official name of the claim that they're making. And so you say Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed, they look at you cross-eyed like you don't know what you're talking about, and that's exactly what they themselves are claiming. That's again why I say give them the documents, don't try to convince them. Give them their own stuff. And if they still claim that after that, they either demon themselves, they're Satanists, you understand, or they're really a COINTELPRO operative for the very Romans that murder all the prophets, which they absolutely are anyway. It's just that they may not know that they're siding with them. But them heads behind that pulpit know exactly who they're working for. That's why I take you to the congressional records, show you their real oath to the Pope. You know, so you got things like this. This is what begins to liberate the people, because they can't keep blaming, they can't charge you like you're attacking their belief. No, you're giving them their own damn documents. That's what you're doing. Those who know didn't expect you to get it, because most people don't get this information until they get their highest degrees of masonry. And we're giving it to the people freely, without riddle, without game, without trick. Front up. Taking them far beyond 33 degrees. Freely. Some don't appreciate it, some do. However, it lays a foundation for the liberation of the generations to come, if they would but hear. And so it says, whosoever will, let them hear. Whosoever will, let them come. So be it. Welcome to the house of reawakening minds.
Islam.
Islam. Yeah. Oh, all right. All right.
There have been a few on here asking, as we close out, how to get in touch with you, or what's the process to get you to come to their city and so forth. I mean, I know you get
They can talk to you and we'll talk.
Okay, so I did tell them that they contact me. Okay, all right, basically, yeah.
Yes.
So you can just inbox me, Naila Gilliam, if you're interested in having Brother Taj come to your city or for your venue, and we'll make sure that the connection is made. And thank you for listening.
Yes, and thank you for coming out to the House of Reawakening Minds. And also remind you all, we already know that half these people buy Gucci belts even though they're knockoffs. And Michael Jordan's for 150 and stuff like that. But understand, Dr. Naila has been honestly struggling to maintain this venue for people around the country to get this information, which is given freely. And of course, you all know that she had an accident put upon her. And she come over here in pain, with that smile still on her face,
Yes.
and the brothers assisting her, and to keep these things going. So make sure, instead of buying that pack of cancer sticks, send it here to make sure the house stays open for Dr. Naila. And you know how I roll. I don't be asking people for fiat. I don't play that game. However, servant is worthy of our hire.
Yes.
Keep the house of reawakening minds open.
Islam.
Support that which supports you.
Islam.
Again, welcome to the house of reawakening minds. Trust that we shared some things that will help you and help you help others. Because remember, to help yourself, help someone that does not know. The best way from a divine principle to rescue yourself is to rescue another. So please pay attention to the details, learn it deeply, and then share it. And when you liberate someone else, you liberated yourself. And you put another nail in the coffin of the vampire, which we're all trying to bury. Peace and good night.
Peace.